In this video, I will tell you guys about binding in GetX. We learned that we write our working logic inside the controller, and so on. After that, we created the instance of the controller inside the UI code, and after creating that instance, we use basically the variables and methods of that particular controller. So basically this means that our UI code is tightly coupled with the controller because the instance is created inside our UI code. So now if you guys want to remove that tight coupling, then we will use binding. This means whenever we will use binding, then there will be no need of creating controller instance inside our UI code. So now we will be working on binding right in here, but first we will create some files and then we will start working right on code. So go to the lib in here and create a new file. Name this as a first controller. Small o, and then dot. Now go and create a new file in here and name it as a app controller dot. Now go and create another file right in the lib and name this as home controller binding dot. There we go. Create another, name this just home dot. Create a new another, name this as a second controller dot. Now the last one will be right in the lib and name this as a home GetX dot. There we go. Now we will go to the main dot right in here. In the get material app we will have a initial binding, so write initial. There we go, and we will set this to the second controller, but we didn't create the class yet. We will do that in a while, but first we will write in here second controller. After this we will give the title, just write binding GetX. There we go. So now we will simply go to the second controller and we will create a class in there right in here. As you guys can see, we will create a class in here and name this as a second controller and then implements binding. There we go. And in here we will override dependencies, so write dependencies. There we go with the second one, and in here remove that and write get dot lazyput. In here there will be a first controller, but we didn't create the class for it yet. We will do that in a while, but first we will write a name in here, so write first controller, and in here write first controller. We will create the class just in a while for a first controller. Now we will have another get dot lazyput in here, and that one will be for a home GetX. There we go. It's a small x in here, and in here also write home GetX. So now first we will go to the first controller right in here, and we will create a class in here. Name is first controller. Now we will extend the GetX controller in here, so write extends, then GetX controller, there we go. And in here we will have a variable, name is count, and we will give the value 0, and we will make that reactive with a .obs. Now we will have a method right in here, name is increment, and in here we will simply increment the count in there, so write count and then increment, there we go. Now we will simply go to the home GetX, as you guys can see here. In here we will create a class, name as home GetX, and then extends GetX controller, there we go. And in here we will have a variable, name as count, we will give the value 0, and we will make that reactive obs. And after this we will have a method, name as increment, similar to the first controller, and in here we will have a count variable, and we will increment that. So now we will go back to the main.dart. In here first import that library for the second controller, that one. So after this title and home, we will have a scaffold widget as usual, and in here we will have app bar, and in app bar there will be a title, and title we will have a text, and in text we will write that binding GetX. Just copy and paste it down in here. Now in body there will be a center widget, and in center widget there will be child, and in child there will be column widget, and in here we will set the properties, main axis alignment, set it to center. After this there will be a cross axis alignment, set it to center, and here there will be children, and in children we will have an obx. In obx we will have a text right in here, and in text we will say the value is. Now in here we will simply find our first control right in here, just write in here $, and in there we will write get dot find, and in here write first controller, there you go. And after this in here there will be a count variable that we created before. Now we will do some styling, right in here write style, and there will be a text style, and in text style we will set the font size, set it to 20.0. Now font weight, so write it will be bold, there we go. Put comment here, in here. Now we will have an elevated button, but first we will have a size box to create some height and spacing between them. Give the height 10.0. So now after this we will have an elevated button, and in chart we will have a text, and in text we will write increment button. Now in the on press, in here we will write get dot find, and in here write the first controller, there we go. And now we will call upon the increment method in here, semicolon. So now we will go and work in the home.dart, as you guys can see here. In here we will have a stateless widget, There we go, and we will name this as a home. We will remove that from here, we don't need this, and import the library. Click in here, import it. There we go. Now in here we will remove that and write scaffold. There we go. As usual, there will be app bar. In app bar we will have a title, and in title we will have a text, and in text we will say this is home. And in body we will have a center widget, and in center there will be child, and in child there will be column widget. And in here we will set the properties. Main axis alignment, set it to center. After this, cross axis alignment, set it to center. There we go. After this there will be children. In here there will be objects, and in here after this we will have a text, and in text we will say something like the value is, and then we will find the home GetX. So in here write like with a dollar sign, and then in here we will write get dot find, and in here write home GetX. There we go. And in here there will be a count variable that we created before. After this we will do some styling. Right in here text style, in text style set the font size, set it to 20.0. After this font weight, it will be bold. Now put a comma in here and in here. After this we will have an elevated button. There we go. And child we will have a text, and text we will say something like this will be the increment button. Put a comma in here. Now in the on pressed we will write get dot find, and in here write GetX home GetX. There we go. Remove that GetX. It's fine now. After this we will call upon the increment method in here. There we go. Now after this elevated button we will have another elevated button, but first we will set the size box. Give the height to 10.0, and after this elevated button and child we will have a text, and in text we will say something. It will basically get the user to the bake page, so in here we will say something like bake. There's fine in here. Now in the on pressed in here you will simply get the user get back. There we go. So the home page is complete. Home dot dart. Now we will go back to the main dot dart. In here we will have an elevated button for it, and first we will set the size box in here. Give the height 10.0 and then elevated button. And child we will say in text, right in text home, or go to the home. Now in here we will get it to the home page. So write get dot to home. In here write home. So now we will go and import the libraries right in the second controller. As you guys can see in here, just click in here and import that library. Now for GetX, there we go. So now we will go and test the application so that you guys know how it will work, and then later on we will work further. So now we will test the application simply. It will take some time, just wait for a while. As you guys can see, there's a binding GetX page, and we can increment the value in it. As you guys can see, it's working fine. And there is a home button. It will get us to the home page, so click on it. There we go. Now in the home page there is an increment button. We can increment the value. It's working fine in here, and also from here you can get back. You guys can see here now in the binding GetX. So now we will go back and work further. Now we will go back to the main dot. Now we will do binding at a route level. So for this, in here we will write get pages. So write in here get page. There we go. The name will be /home, and the page will be also the home. So in here write like that. It will redirect it to the home page. So put a comma, and after this write in here binding, and write in here home controller binding. As you guys can see here, home controller binding, that one, but we didn't create the class yet. We will do that in a while, but first in here we will write in here. So write home controller binding. There we go. So now we will simply go to the home controller binding and we will work there, but first we will comment that because we don't need this now, because now we are working with the binding at a root level, so we don't need this. Home controller binding dot. In here we will create a class name as home controller binding. Implements, then write binding. Then in here we will override the dependencies, so write dependency, the second one. There we go. Remove that, and in here write get.lazyput, and in here we will write home GetX. There we go. Also in here home GetX. There we go. So we initialize the home GetX in here. Now we will go back to the main dot and we will import the library for a home controller binding. There one. As you guys know, we are working at the root level. So for that we will change something right down in here. We will comment that, and we will use the name root in here. So write get dot to name, and in here we will give the name. It will redirect to the home. There we go. So now we will go to the app controller and we will work there, and after it we will create the instance right in the main dot. So first we will go to the app controller. As you guys can see in here, In here we will create a class name as app controller, and we will implement the binding. There we go. And in here we will override the dependencies, so write dependencies, the second one, there we go, remove that. And in here we will write get dot lazy put, and in here we will initialize the first controller. There we go. And in here also write first controller. Now we will go to the main.dot and create an instance for it. Right in here in the void main, so write app controller, and now we will call upon the dependencies. There we go, that we created before, right in the app controller, as you guys can see here. So up to this, now we will run the application and see, and it should be working fine. So click on the increment button, working fine. Go to the home page, incrementing fine, back, so it's working fine at the root level. Now let's close this. Now in here there is one more thing. In here we create a separate binding class. So if you guys don't want to create a separate binding class, so in that case we will use a binding builder. So we will comment that, all of this, there we go. And right after, in here we will write get pages, and in here write get page. There we go. And in name we will give /home. Now in the page there will be a home page, so we will set it to the home. There we go. Put a comma in here and then write binding, and then write bindings builder. There we go. So now in here we will write get dot lazy put, and we will initialize the home controller binding. In here write home control binding, also in here home controller binding. So that's fine here. We give the route name and everything is good in here. And in here you guys can also initialize more controllers if you want. So now we will go down, right in here we will comment that, and after it we will write get dot to, and in here we will give the home, and after it home controller binding. So that's all for the GetX binding, and now we will test the application. So go and click on this play button, and it should be working fine. So now click on this increment. There we go. Now go to the home page. We are now in the home page. Increment, go back. So it's working fine with the binding builder. So that's all for this video, and we will work further in the next video.